It's like
Nicely done.
fire, fire.
I'm gonna make you hurt me. Oh, yes, I am. Yes, I am. You're gonna wake up, motherfucker, and I'm gonna wake up. One of us is gonna wake up.
Hey guys,
We tried shots. We tried jokes. We tried everything, and it wasn't working. And so I just started
slugging me.
I started punching Joe
He's wailing on me.
and hoped that he would wail back on me, and maybe we would knock ourselves out of our nest or something, whatever the hell we're in.
Actually, that's pretty good. Maybe we're putting together a little routine. Tequila shots.
Yeah.
And then beat the shit out of each other.
A little pugilism.
Yeah. Show a little Godzilla.
Yeah.
Battle action. I think I hear us on your phone.
Well, hell with that. F that S, as
See
they
what
say.
happens when you have a one shot.
One shot, everything goes out the window.
What do we got here?
We've got ginger ale. Trader Joe's ginger ale, by the way, not bad. Is it the best ginger ale? No. Does it come in a really cool, big, giant green bottle and relatively reasonably priced and good and decent tasting? Sure.
Do we want the best? Maybe we don't even want the best.
I don't know if we want the best. I'm starting to revisit.
Why do we always say we want the best?
Yeah, it's why? Why indeed?
Why?
What is the best anyway? I mean, it's already been demonstrated 100 million times over that the best.
That's a lot.
Does not mean
the best.
What is the best anyway?
Oh,
the
this
best
is an inquiry into values.
Well, it's the best is whatever. The best is what's best for you at the moment when you pick up something or encounter something and you say it's the best.
Do I hear a cricket? Yes, you hear a cricket because I hear a cricket. Oh, you want Vernon's? Probably.
Oh, yeah. Don't give me that Vernon's crap. I've been through all that Vernon's shit.
That's a straight up Malcontents answer.
You know, Reeds and all that. I've been through all the ginger ales. And right now, the Trader Joe's is the best. Why? Because I hadn't tried it before. It's the same with that. It's the same with a restaurant. Oh man, we just found this great restaurant.
Oh yeah.
And
the newest thing, the novel thing is the best thing.
Yeah.
And
everything it wasn't expensive. And I mean, it was not cheap, but it wasn't cheesy expensive.
Yeah.
It was not in an area where you would expect anything of remotely that quality to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And I posted that little quote from. I posted the picture of it and linked to their restaurant, and I did a little review on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I said that this restaurant is exactly fits the description of that scene in Shawshank Redemption, where Red is reading the letter from the guy that escaped, and telling him that there's a box hidden in a field.
Yes, and
his description was: you're going to go out in the field where there's this big oak tree, and there's going to be a rock there that has no earthly reason to be there, And it was a piece. He was like a rock hound.
Yes.
So he found this piece of obsidian and he put it out there, so it would be absolutely no question that Red would find
obsidian doesn't belong here.
The box, right? And in Chatsworth, where the factory is, the place is littered with some of the most mediocre eating establishments in all of San Fernando Valley.
That's its draw.
Yeah. And when you get out of that immediate area and go up farther north to Porter Ranch, where it's the more nice area, it's just corporate mediocre nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
the furniture is nice. The staff is nice. the food is, you might as well just go to McDonald's.
Whoa, that bad.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's just one of those things that the presentation far outshines the product that they're actually serving.
Right,
you know?
right.
And so this place,
You see, Amanda, come for the sunshine, stay for the mediocrity.
yeah, exactly, fucking exactly. And so we go to this place. It's just been open for about a month or so. It was open. It's run by a guy that's over the last 15 years of his career. He's had like probably 2 Michelin rated restaurants.
Damn.
And he is a no compromise kind of guy. I feel like I really related to him because he was just like not having it anymore. And everything we tasted was a new taste experience. And there was stuff from Italy and stuff from France. And he had this little a wine
Like a flight?
a wine flight.
Uh-huh.
And it's not like you choose the flights.
Yeah.
It's just like on that night, this is the flight.
Yeah.
And
You get what you get and you don't throw a fit.
and every one of them was like, oh my God, and he doesn't buy any of his wines from any of the traditional local wine sellers, the distribution houses. He imports everything from all the places that he's encountered in his career in Italy and France, the real little boutique guys.
Yeah.
Where, oh yeah, then you go into like Winehouse down in West LA, and they go, oh yeah, this is a really nice little boutique winery in blah blah blah, the south of France, and blah blah blah, and we only have 82 cases left. And you're going, oh, interesting. This guy goes, oh yeah, I brought in a case. I brought in a case of wines from this little specialty house I know. They're just a little family operation. Oh, how many cases did you get? Yeah, this case.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was about it.
Yeah.
That was about what they could part with.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, and they opened it up and it was like, the guy was funny. He was funny because he'd already had it. He was all done with it, and we go and they have shitty parking.
Yes.
And the front entrance looks like a weed joint, with
Wait, is it in a strip mall?
No, it's not in a strip mall. It's like right next to a bus stop, the entrance.
Oh.
And
the ambiance.
It's just, there's from the outside,
fumes.
From the outside, you would be on your phone going, this can't be the right place.
Yeah.
And there's a brother out in front, on his iPhone. And I'm like, so we walk up and, good evening. How you doing? Good. How you doing? Good. I said, you're open, right? And he goes, oh, you're here for the restaurant? Even the guy manning the door is watching for riffraff because that's the way the street looks. And I said, we don't have a reservation, but I know that you guys just opened and we've been meaning to get over here and check it out. So do I need a reservation? And he goes, oh, you're here for the rest. Oh, okay. Yeah, come on in. And then he turned all friendly.
Oh,
but he had the sort of psychological do not cross this line until I give you the nod kind of attitude.
Yeah.
And then once it was firmly established that we knew that we were there for this specific reason, then he was like, oh, let me show you in. And his whole demeanor changed. It was really funny.
Oh,
and it kind of added to the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like I walked in there and I expected, I don't know what the hell I expected, which was great. And so we're like going, we decided to sit at the bar. And we're sitting there and we're looking at each other going, this could go very, very good or very, very bad. And so we just kind of hung out for a little bit. And then this guy comes up and he comes up to us and he gives us each a glass of this real homespun Chardonnay it's not clear, it's kind of cloudy, it's not filtered.
Mm-hmm.
It was fantastic.
Yeah.
And that was his little greeting drink.
Oh,
Give you a little
okay.
glass of this interesting, bizarre
Oh, I love
Northern
that.
Italian Chardonnay.
Yeah.
And we're like, wow, that was interesting. And then he puts this, he says, oh, it's a little dark where you're sitting here. And he brings over this thing that looks like a lamp. It's got these 4 little goddesses holding this big glass bowl over their heads. And there's this sort of murky green liquid in it.
What? Okay.
And there's a light underneath illuminating the green liquid from the bottom.
Okay.
And I'm looking at it more closely, and each of the little virgins holding the glass, holding the container,
Mm-hmm.
they had a little lever on them.
Oh.
And each one, and they're holding the glass, they're holding the container with one hand and holding their other hand out like this, and right next to the hand there's a little lever. And I'm like, what the hell is this? And he comes over and I says, this is a real interesting piece. What the hell am I looking at here? And he goes, oh, what's that? What's that stuff that Torn likes that we've had a few times? That drink, that French drink that you.
Oh,
pour.
absinthe. I'm thinking absinthe.
It's an absinthe. An absinthe dispenser.
That's funny.
And each of the little maidens, so 4 people can sit there and sip absinthe. And it was like some really esoteric kind of absinthe. And I'm like, well, I didn't come here for the absinthe night, but it was hilarious that we have this little thing sitting in front of us. It just got more and more sort of out in left field as the night went on, but also the food was fantastic.
I
But
can't
the whole
imagine pairing absinthe with any sort of
no, but the food was really good, and he was really interesting. He really just had this attitude of, yeah, I'm doing this.
What was the decor like inside?
Marble tabletops.
Okay.
And he had.
And wait, what's the theme of the restaurant?
It's Italian.
Oh, so it's like Tuscany, the marble.
Yeah. He had some like old Roman warrior helmets hanging on the walls and stuff. It was sort of had a little bit of a kind of a tacky Roman vibe and a little bit of goth, and it was just not anything that you go, I hate this. It was just kind of, what a bizarre conflagration of stuff. But he was so
inside this
personable.
Nondescript.
He was so personable and so knowledgeable, and everything that he said, like, if you drink this and taste this, this is going to happen. And he totally knew what he was talking about.
That's fun.
And everything that came out of that kitchen was a home run.
What's it called?
Canto 6, Roman numeral 6.
Oh, yeah.
Canto 6.
All right.
On Devonshire Street in Chatsworth. It is the weirdest gem in a place where nobody would even think to go for cuisine like that.
Have you been back?
We just discovered it last
once?
week. Yeah.
Huh.
So yeah, there's definitely going to be a return trip. But what a trip the guy was, and he was talkative and all that. But
did they give you limoncello at the end of the night?
He gave us something at the end of the night. I forget what it was. Everything was just so dynamite.
Huh. All right. But I'm intrigued.
But the whole thing about his demeanor was that kind of like, I don't care. I care what I do, and I'm passionate about what we're doing. Outside of that, I could care less what happens outside those doors or what anybody thinks of it. And I loved that.
Okay, well, this is a perfect on-ramp to what we were sort of talking about the show being about. And we were talking the other day, and I brought up that Steve Jobs quote. I'm super paraphrasing, but it was essentially the sentiment was it's not the customer's job to know what they want or something along those lines.
Mm.
And it's our job to anticipate what that is and then educate them
Mm-hmm.
to that.
Yeah.
Which is a tricky proposition because it sounds pretty arrogant on the surface, right?
Right.
And I was making the point that I think like you can get away with that if you're actually really in touch with your customer base. Like you have to have an idea of what their needs are, right?
Right.
But this guy, he doesn't know who's walking in, but he's like, I'm going to do my art.
Yeah.
And I hope you like it. And if you don't, you can go to the McDonald's.
Yeah. Yeah. We do this here.
Yeah. But you kind of have, you know, as a customer, you really have to open yourself up to that and not go in and going, hey, well, that's fine. But, you know, I want my linguine done this way, you know?
Yeah. And he would probably just go, uh-huh. And then he'll, that scene in, Fargo, where the couple is buying the car and the guy's really angry because they put the undercoating on it and tried to charge him for it. And the salesman, William H. Macy is the salesman, and he's like, oh, let me see what I can do, blah, 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 blah. I'll go talk to my manager. He goes into the lunchroom and goes, what you watching on TV? Oh, the baseball game. Ah, yeah, cool. And he walks back up and he goes, oh, my manager said, you know.
It's the Tommy Tedesco. You know?
Yeah.
He's got one guitar on the session. They're like, Tommy, you know, that was great. You know, can you make it sound like you know, can you get your country guitar? Like we're looking for that vibe. Oh yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
Ducks down, doesn't do a damn thing. All right, I'm ready, roll it. And they're like, yeah, that's exactly what we were looking for.
Yeah, I have a friend that worked at Disney as a staff engineer, and you know he'd be working on a mix, and the brass would come in, and they would like, yeah, you needed a little different level, blah 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 blah, and he would say, yeah, great idea. And he would reach for a knob and just turn it back, and the guy would go,
There's
awesome.
nothing on that channel.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, great idea. That's so much better.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah. Give that guy a bonus.
That's funny.
But yeah, I mean, there's we're in a really interesting period right now where there's just all kinds of product development just coming out of the woodwork from everywhere.
Uh-huh.
And they occupy every single strata of what product can come out, and every combination of stuff that people can imagine to put in a box or to make it do this or that. And so, you know, we were talking about what drives these choices.
Mm-hmm.
And as we were talking about it, I was just thinking, well, you know, you can just sort of categorize what is being offered by the kind of marketing organization that said company has behind it. It's like so predictable.
Yes.
When you see a product, you go, okay. I'm just trying to imagine which guy in the design committee is wearing the white bucks, the little white shoes with a little gold chain across the top.
Yeah.
There's going to be one of those guys.
Yeah.
There's design committee. There's just somebody that somebody like I used to be. I need this. I'm spending a whole lot of time just trying to make this thing for me. And somebody hears it and goes, yeah, I'd like to have one of those, you know. Been in that position. And over the years, we've done enough things that there's kind of a nice palette to work from. There's complementary sort of bits and pieces that all can be
Right. Right.
put together in practical, useful ways. And it's up to our team to flesh that out. And by our team, I mean, the people at the company that actually play and care about these kind of things. And, you, for example, and our engineering guys who are guitar enthusiasts, and me. And I might, if I want a little more feedback, I might reach out to other of our friends, associate kind of people. I might be having a conversation with Michael Nielsen, for example, and go, "Hey, what do you think of this idea?" And sometimes you get valuable information from that, and sometimes you just get, "That's awesome! That's an awesome idea. You're always thinking of stuff," and it's nice and complimentary. But depending on who the person is, it doesn't necessarily mean that they even understood what you asked them. And they're just like, "Yeah, Stevie, go," and I'm not saying that Michael's like that, but there are people like that.
I noticed with you, having known you for, I don't even know how long now, but I've noticed when you are looking for feedback, it's actually helpful to introduce a little bit of friction in there, because I think what you're doing.
Yeah, shields up, Scotty.
It's not like walking in and going, "This sucks, scrap it and start over again, fry it." But it's like, rather than going, "This is great," it's like, "Well, I'm really enjoying this. Tell me what you were thinking here." Because I think when you're looking for feedback, you're also clarifying for yourself. And sometimes when we have those sorts of meetings, I watch your wheels turning, like, yes, now I'm deeper into this concept. I'm more committed. Yes, now I know why we're going. Like, I had a hunch, I had an inkling, and now we kind of worked it out. Whereas if I just come in and like, I think I used to do that because I truly meant it. Like, "This is fucking great. I can't wait till it's finished. Peace," And you're like, "Okay, that was nice." But when we kind of get into it and I start asking questions, then you start iterating on it in real time. And it's kind of, that diamond making process in short form,
more heat, more pressure.
Yeah. So I think you enjoy that a little bit more. It's not like arguing about it, but it's like, no, it's kind of debated a little bit. Why aren't you doing it that way? How come you're doing it that way? This sort of.
Yeah, it's that clearinghouse of
And you'll go, "Well, here's why."
Yeah, good and bad ideas.
Yeah, or like, "Oh, well, let's walk this through. Let's talk about it." Yeah.
And a lot of times in that conversation, something that seemed to make sense as a feature all the way through the project, like towards the end of it, like, okay, everything just sort of makes sense. Somebody would say something like, everything from top to bottom makes sense, except this. Well, but that's always been there. Yeah, but the product has now evolved into a new thing, or it's evolved into a more focused and specialized thing at what it does. And this one remaining legacy feature doesn't line up with that anymore.
Right.
And that happened once recently, and I just went, yeah, you're absolutely right. It's sort of having that feature in there prevented it from moving from the realm below it to the next realm above it.
Huh.
Because it's sort of.
Do you remember what product that was?
Yeah, it was the GPDI. We took the headphone off of it.
Oh, well,
because that took it out of
part of that.
That took it out of the realm of being a fun little personal practice tool thing like that there are a percentage of people that are disappointed that that's not in there, and there are other people that thought we should have just improved it. But the improvement does, this is what always happens. People, if you just did this instead of that, well, that's the problem with not knowing how these things all tie together in the first place. And that's why when we were talking about what we were going to do with this show, we landed on, we were like grinding it back and forth. How are we going to summarize the show in a phrase? And you were like, well, I don't know, blah, 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 blah. We were banging it back and forth. And he says, well, kind of like, the rules of engagements are, and I went, that's it. That encapsulates it perfectly. And you went, oh yeah, okay. And
well, I remember, this is sort of leaving this. I'd love to talk about the GPDI more, but at the time that we were discussing that, we were talking about, I think I was just interested in what it's like being a company of your size, competing in the marketplace with some behemoths. And I was saying that, and like, how are you going to navigate these waters? And I was telling you, like, I was imagining some of these companies being like these giant destroyers, and you're out here in this little pirate ship. Not necessarily to attack them, but like, how am I going to survive? And it's like, well, you maybe have to have two things. You really have to know your shit maybe more than a committee on this destroyer.
Right.
Like, you really have to like way know your shit. And then you have to have the massive balls to always act on it.
The tough thing is like, so you have the big destroyer.
You get run over.
You've got a crew of 500 people, and each one of those 500 people have 1/500th of what they need to know to do their job.
Yeah, they don't have the 30,000-foot view,
and they don't.
You're just taking.
And they not only do they not have that, but they aren't even allowed access to that, because in order to manage a bigger crew, the edict has to come down from on high that this is your job and you've got X minutes to do it.
Right.
And if you're trying to turn the ship and you've got a crew of 500, everybody has to like get their ego out of the way and do the specific thing that they're there to do and shut the hell up and make sure that this ship changes course X number of degrees or whatever and at X speed. And in the meantime, in a more an independent environment, there's one person that goes, okay, I can smell pollution in the air, and I know that tells me I know that the next major city is over there, the coast is over that way, and we're just gonna. And
you can look your entire crew in the eyes and go, right, yeah, right, all right, we're off.
Right, and they don't know if it's right or not, but there's no edict. It's just they know they're in, or they better they know they know that they're with the program, or they know that they need to get with the program. And then if somebody has the temerity to step up and say, I don't think that's right, that's exciting to me, because like, oh, somebody has got a thought, somebody is thinking about something, and they might bring it up, and a certain percentage of the time, it'll be an idea that was already on the list of 40 things that got vetted out and discarded a month ago. But that's not a slam, because at least they're thinking. They're focused and they're thinking and they're running it around in their head and they're watching. So people paying attention is really cool. But the other thing is that we've sort of cultivated this image as a small company, a small crew, a small company. And by some measure, we are. But by another measure, we're a lot bigger than people perceive us to be. And we talked about this, there is even a delay on my part in coming to grips with that.
Right.
And I use the example of the puppy that goes and dives under the coffee table. Any of you dog owners? And then the dog tips over the coffee table because he doesn't realize that he's twice as big as he was a month ago. And he goes to run under the table. He doesn't fit anymore because he's bigger. And he bangs his head on the corner of the table and he's whimpering because he's under the table and he doesn't understand
What happened to me?
what happened. I used to fit under here before.
And are you going to do it once? Or are you
Yeah,
gonna
how
do it
many
3 or
times are you
4
going to do that until you get
times?
it? So we had, there's just so many distractions. First of all, getting the designs done, getting products shipped, making sure that we have inventory and blah, blah, blah. While all this is going on, there's this gradual growth process.
Yes.
And, you know, when we have visitors, we normally get the thing that, I don't believe that you guys crank out all the stuff that you crank out in this place. And in our previous location, that was true. We said the same thing. We don't even know how we're doing it.
Yeah.
But in the last year and a half, that's all changed. And there are a little bit more staff, but it's not like a double or triple increase in staff. But reacting to that is difficult because we're interacting with more people, and they have more questions, and that the whole idea of engagement is about us evaluating what kind of engagement is expected and what kind of engagement do we think is appropriate. And what we find more and more often these days is we're getting more specialized, and people are looking at us going, you guys are really out of the box. No, we're really not out of the box. We're out of that box where all that other stuff that's happening in the marketplace normally happens. The kind of development, the kind of products that come out, the kind of updates of the old products to the new products where it's just a finish or a gold screw instead of a silver screw or this kind of thing or that kind of thing. You know, or you know, the hot new thing now in Next is roasted maple or roasted this or roasted that, roasted popcorn. Just, you know, that's a small evolution. What is that evolution about? It's about, is it about we found this trick thing to do with wood that's better than before? Or is it about the kind of woods that were available to make guitars in the 50s and 60s is no longer available? And we've found a thing to divert people's attentions away from that and towards it's roasted maple. That's a cool thing to do. Why are we roasting maple? We're trying to do something with it, with the woods, to get them to behave like the woods that we can't get anymore. That to me is more of a reaction to supply and demand rather than a product development that really evolved the instrument. Because it didn't really evolve the instrument. Maybe visually it evolved it, but more what it did was it made the instrument feel and play more like the one that you wished that you could still buy if they still made them that way.
I don't know if I'm right about this. And
I don't know if I'm right about what I
can chime in if they know. What you're saying sort of makes sense because the vintage instruments, you know, the 50s, 60s were being made with trees that had been around forever, and maybe the wood had been stored forever and dried out forever and this sort of thing. So as all of those forests got logged and all those trees went away, you know, moving into the modern era, the wood for guitars was like newer growth. There weren't these ancient freaking trees that were being cut down because there weren't any more ancient
Or
trees cut down.
reclaimed stuff from Lake Michigan. Or,
Yeah. And then the roasted maple thing, I think, is kind of a moisture extraction to make it like the super dried out woods of, your, because that's kind of the whole thing. Like, even if we talk about the guitars of the 50s, even if they weren't completely dried out, I think the thinking is, well, by the 80s, it's just old and completely dried out. And so we're trying to do that out of the box, So I don't know. Wait, is that? Wonder if anybody's. Oh, I'm replacing
tone plastic.
Oh yeah, because tone plastic.
Roasted maple is a substitute for unavailable teak decks. Probably something to that, but
yeah, let's make some guitars out of Trex. You know what Trex is?
No.
It's that fake wood shit.
The manufactured wood?
Yeah.
God. I mean, yeah, you got to do that to a certain degree. We have a conference table that we had made for our lunchroom.
Oh yeah.
And we were just looking at stuff that was made with the kind of wood that you're talking about, and manufactured wood and all, just trying to get something that would look good in that room. And when everybody was sitting around the table having lunch, they would just feel like it was a relaxing environment, and not a cheesy environment. Not like a lunchroom, not like a hospital cafeteria thing.
Like typical IKEA.
Yeah. And we went to IKEA, we went to Living Spaces, we went to all these places, and it was like, yuck, ick, no, And so Erica is like checking Craigslist, because she checks Craigslist every once in a while, when she gives up on everything else, like all the online places and Amazon, and she'll go, oh, what? Let me just look at my Craigslist account, see what's going on there. And she finds this guy that lives nearby, that whenever there's a building or a house or a garage or something getting torn down, he goes and buys the wood. And it's all full of holes and nail holes and screw holes and knot holes and broken spots and stains and this and that. And he cleans them up and he makes nice furniture out of them.
Yeah.
And he's got a buddy that welds frames.
Yeah.
So they make a frame with legs out of welded wrought iron, and they have it powder coated, and he made this great table, and it was really reasonably priced. And when we got it in, it was like, oh, this is exactly what we were looking for. And it absolutely has the intended effect, which when I go in the lunchroom, in the break area where you go to get away from everything, it's a great atmosphere. And it's not the kind of atmosphere that you're looking at the clock going, I got to be out of here in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It's just, you know what? I could actually hang here for half an hour and have a couple of conference calls and because it's empty most of the day, because the guys are the rest of the crew is only in there during the lunch hour, so it's just great space.
Yeah.
A hideaway. And I don't know. I see bigger companies that have all these, like the Fender offices in Hollywood, great space. And when you go in there, it's like open and inviting, and there's stuff going on, and people are friendly and available to have a conversation about nothing, It's sort of a social environment in a way, but everybody's got work to do, but they also have this sort of mentality that, oh, hey, this is what we're working on today, And I wanted to be able to emulate that on a different scale. And fortunately, the place that we found allowed us to do that. And there were people sort of insistence on doing things the nice way, the thought through way, really kind of put the icing on the cake. And it actually has made everybody more productive. So we are still a smaller crew than another typical company of our economic size these days.
Mm-hmm.
They have more people doing these different jobs.
Mm-hmm.
They have more people wearing hats. We have more hats and less people wearing them, so they're switching hats more often. And that's kind of a throwback to the fact that we've always been that way.
Mm.
But we do have more people on staff now than we used to, but still not as many as a comparably sized company, because everybody's selfish about their 5 hats or their 3 hats. It's work, it's concentration, it's frustrating sometimes, but if you try to, it's like bringing a stray cat in a house where you've got 3 cats. You know, the cat's going to get the ass kicked around the house for a couple of months before it's allowed to fit in. And that's kind of the thing with us too. We actually did hire a guy who seemed like he would be a pretty decent fit, you know, quiet, focused, just did his job, blah, 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 blah. And then one day he just stopped coming to work. It wasn't his environment. Turned out he was not comfortable in an environment where he was expected to think for himself.
Oh, interesting.
He needed a second lead. You know, he always was talking about, oh yeah, this is when I asked for his contact information and some references, he gave me, yeah, this is here's one of my references that you can call. Who's this? He goes, well, it's the second lead at the place I worked for before. And I'm like, a second lead. Okay, so it's like a second tier below the manager of the entire department. Okay, this guy's used to working in a machine.
Mm-hmm.
And I have this idea that when we bring somebody on our team, I want them to feel that their input is welcome and that there is an opportunity for them to stretch and use their brains. And that's really stressful for some people. They don't want that.
Yeah.
They want to know where the lever is that they yank and push back and forth all day and switch from the big gear to the little gear.
Right.
And they know that they have to do that 247 times a day.
Yeah.
And
for the person who wants to wear 5 hats, that kind of job is hell.
It's hell.
Because, you know, when you were talking about your current team being people who are kind of selfish about, you know, their 5 hats, as you said, I imagine a part of that is if something needs improved or they need something solved, it's like, well, no problem. I get to do that for myself. I don't have to wait for it to be approved. Like, this needs solved. Oh, I'm the guy to solve it.
Right.
You know, I'll double check with you or Eric or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, is this good?
Yeah.
Does this work? Yeah. All right, great. I can do it. I don't have to wait until next week.
One of the other things that encourages us in this quest to find the right balance between the number of people and the number of tasks that have to be completed is we've sort of been robbed of the luxury of being too OCD about every fucking thing.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because we are OCD about stuff, you know, small details are our specialty.
Mm-hmm. Oh, this is great. Where is it? Is it up here? I love this. You've told the story of this panel before, but yeah, if you scooch, I don't think they can see it.
It's hard to see, yeah.
Yeah. We should put it up at some point, though. I mean, it's a regular Fryette front panel on the SIG X, but it's marked by all of these little tiny red pieces of tape.
Can I take a picture of it and give it to you and put it up?
Yeah. Actually, you know, here, I can do it. Probably be more effective for me.
Okay.
I can't see what the hell they're talking about.
So we were at a NAMM show a few years ago, and one of our customers from Europe, somewhere in Europe, was at the booth, and he was like looking at the details of a 412 cabinet really closely and running his fingers around the vinyl and looking closely at the grill cloth and kind of rubbing his fingers on the nameplate.
Yeah.
And he looks at me and he goes, German accent, he goes, Stevie, I'm really happy for you. And I go, what are you happy about? And he goes, I know you're going to live long time. And I go, what makes you think that why am I going to live a longer time now?
What the hell are we
And he
talking
says, because when I look on your cabinets, I see some small defects that I know nobody else sees, but I know that you see, and I see them now, and I never used to see those before. And they absolutely don't matter to anybody, but I can see that you're not killing yourself over details that nobody else can see anymore. And that means that you're streamlining and focusing your
You're
attention on
chilling the fuck out.
And he just like took this little thing where he knew the difference between super OCD and average OCD, and extrapolated from that I was going to live longer because I'm not killing myself over inconsequential details anymore. And I just thought that was really funny. And then I went back to the cabinet to look at what he's talking about, and I went, I don't really understand. I don't really see what you're talking about. And he goes, yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Congratulations. I'm going, okay, all right. So I get a hug, and then off he goes. And okay, I'm going to live longer, I hope.
Here's that panel.
Yeah. So those are one of our production guys. He's going through the panels and putting a little red marker on every place where there is a little, what we call an inclusion, a little tiny defect of some sort that you practically have to have a magnifying glass to see. And when I went back into production, and I said, what are you doing? And he goes, well, I'm supposed to be marking all the defects. And I said, did you do the arm test? And he goes, arm test? And I said, did you forget what the arm test is? And
Lou says he missed one. Smart ass.
And I said, it's like this. I took the nameplate and I held it out at arm's length. Look at it that way.
This is Fryette testing procedures.
Arm test. It's typical. You go to any sheet metal manufacturer or painting, powder coat, painting place, sheet metal, machining, molded metal parts, whatever parts that get painted.
Yeah.
The standard for visible defects is 3 feet, arm's length, 3 feet away. You're supposed to be looking at it with reasonably good eyesight at 3 feet away. You're not doing this.
Yeah.
Because nobody looks at a product like that.
Right.
Some people do look at a product that way. And back to the rules of engagement, when somebody comes to us and says, I have a defective product, and we go, okay, what's defective about it? And they, well, the taping on the carton that it was shipped in is kind of flaky looking. No, that's not a defective product. I'm sorry. There's all these kinds of levels of what we call quality, what people perceive as quality.
Yeah.
And then there's a multitude of conversations between coworkers, between designers and vendors, and so on and so forth, about where you aim, how much intensity you apply to the quest for quality and what is quality. Like,
Mhm.
for example, you can say something is good quality. It can be a piece of garbage. But if it's a 20% better piece of garbage than another piece of garbage that's competing with it, then it's higher quality, even if it's still a piece of crap.
Yeah.
Um,
It's a little like the winner take all system in the American electoral system.
yeah, and you see
Like,
this
you
all
don't
the
even have to have a majority. The
you
winner
s-
takes
you
all.
you see this
So,
all the time in mass-produced product,
uh-huh.
like mic stands or guitar stands, or little accessory kind of things like that. We see it all the time in lamps, desk lamps, and the lamps, the extended lamps that we have at our workstations so that
Yeah.
people can see and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And we use them. They get moved around and readjusted on a daily basis when you're working on this item or that item, and then they give up.
Mhm.
And then you go back to the same place and buy the replacement for it. Just get another one. They're $30, $40, $50, whatever. One of these lamps that clamps onto the front of a workbench, and then you're back to work again.
Yeah.
They're not that expensive, but every time we go to the same supplier to buy the same lamp, it's different.
Yeah.
It just got a
Yeah.
little bit junkier.
Yeah.
It's the same looking thing, but
Like, oh, it's lighter now. There's less
the
mass.
parts aren't interchangeable. It looks like exactly the same thing we bought before. Yeah, you get it, you open it up, you go, wait a minute. Because what we would do, we didn't necessarily want to replace the whole thing. We just needed parts. We could buy one and get parts off of it to fix three others, right?
Yeah.
No longer,
Yeah.
because the parts aren't interchangeable. The screws are a different length. One used to have Phillips screws, now it has slotted screws. It used to have a zinc plated screws, and now they're just cheap. They're galvanized or
Mhm.
some crap. The plastic got thinner.
Yeah.
The springs, the wire gauge on the springs got cheaper. The socket that you put the light bulb in doesn't fit as well. The switch, they're just little degrees
Of degradation. Yeah.
that go on over time until
Mhm.
you have to go, well, okay, every 2 or 3 years we're just going to chuck all the desk lamps and get replacements so that they all look like they all have a sort of a uniform look,
Mm.
because I want the place to look, well kept up, well maintained. And you can't do that when one person has got a really nice looking lamp with a fresh bulb in it that's got a certain amount of intensity, and the guy next to him, the top piece is hanging on by 2 wires, and the
But you have a third world workstation.
yeah, it's just
Right
like,
next to
well,
a
what did that guy do
superpower
to
workstation.
deserve the shittiest lamp? It's like, oh man, we got to not do
We
that.
actually like you. You're just in the shit workstation.
Yeah.
We'll give you an extra.
So we
Stick
go
of celery at lunch.
we go through all of that, and then I go to visit a vendor one time to see why the quality control on X item that we buy from that vendor is so crappy. And I go there, and they take me to the area where the guy is doing the final visual QC on the stuff before he packs it and sends it to us. And so, hey, customer so-and-so says that a lot of defects are getting overlooked, and he would like a higher level of QC applied to this.
Can you guys do it better, please?
And the guy's going, oh well, this looks fine to me. And
I don't like that.
it's June or July in Los Angeles, and it's this one of those tin World War II looking arch top buildings, with the corrugated steel on the top.
Oh yeah.
Looks like a 1940s airplane hangar or something. There's no AC in there.
Oh.
The lights are shit. You can't even hardly see. And it's just the most nasty, uncomfortable. work environment, and I'm going, let's go outside for a sec. So we take the thing outside and go, now look at it. And he goes, oh yeah, that's pretty bad, huh? But he's the proprietor is trying to show, I'm going to bring you to talk to Joey to discuss what he needs to pay more attention to. And I didn't give Joey a hard time. We went back outside and I talked to the owner and said, why don't you guys buy your employees some fucking lights? And I got mad at him. Yeah, buy them some tools, buy them some lights. And I went to another place that does electronic testing and stuff. And they had the shittiest meters, and all their probes and leads were nasty and broken and fixed with with electrical tape and stuff. And like, would it kill you to spend $50 per workstation for the guys to have the tools they really need to do this job?
Yeah.
And well, those tools are just fine, blah 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 blah. One place I actually went, you know what, I'm gonna buy you 5 new multimeters at my expense because this is fucking ridiculous. You're just like, you're kneecapping your staff so badly. Are you even aware of that? And you asked me before, so I'm wearing this jacket. This is like the
acid wash. And I said, is that from 87 or 88?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
He went, yes, it is.
Yeah, it is. It's the first jean jacket that we had made when the company first started. Can you see that?
Oh yeah. The ultimate rock and roll amplifier, Steve. Valley heroin transport.
Yeah, you bet, baby.
Yeah.
I hauled it out of the closet just to have some fun with it. But
I like it.
You had asked me if my attitude had changed with regard to how we do things now versus how we did things then. And I think
graphite and cigars needs that jacket.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we might have another one hidden around someplace.
Oh.
It's not like I wear it all the time.
Amanda says when you first popped up on her screen, she thought you were maybe rocking a Canadian tuxedo.
Yeah, baby.
But not really. They don't match. So you're safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
but you know what? It does smell a little like maple syrup. I'm totally kidding.
Canadian tuxedo. I don't remember what I said now. I think I probably said that I probably don't. Maybe I don't insert my personality as forcefully now as I did in the past.
We were. What did you say?
I don't remember.
What did you say? Oh man, damn it! This was before we went on. Before we came on, you made a crack about. Oh shit! I don't remember what it was.
Come on, Joe.
It had something to do with in your younger days being full of piss and vinegar. It was along those lines. And I thought, were you a lot more like that back then? I guess malcontenty. Let's go. Well, I'm a young upstart.
I definitely was more militant about it. And I had this sort of attitude that I knew better than everybody else.
Yeah.
And that I was it was okay for me to have that attitude because I wasn't telling everybody else how to do their job or how to make their product or that we were so much better than them. I just had the attitude that I know better than anybody else how our product is supposed to be presented and sound and look and be put together and all of that. And the thing that changed over years that sanded off of that. Well, I've had a couple of things. Erico said that, and more than one person. Erico's one, another 2 or 3 people in the last few years. Joy Brasler said this. Oh, in fact, it was Joy. He said that time has sanded off your rough edges.
Interesting. Huh.
And And I thought about that, and I thought that's a very nice compliment, and maybe that's true, or maybe that he's just not here on Friday when all hell is breaking loose and we have like $500,000 worth of shipments that have to be out of the door by the end of the day, and I'm not getting any cooperation. He would not be if he was there during that period of time in like a month ago, he would completely retract that. Time has worn the rough edges off you, because I can summon that back when it's needed. And I did have a really intense conversation with some marketing people that involved flinging an iPhone across the room and having it ricochet off of 2 walls, because not just me and my attitude and that I want it this way or that way, but my team, my people are all killing it. They're dedicated. They're committed. They should be committed for working here. I think that sometimes, like, how can you tolerate this? But they appreciate the opportunity to be able to use their brains and apply what they're figuring out to processes, and coming to me and saying, hey, I figured out that this is a little easier for me to do this. Is it okay if I do that? Sure. As long as this looks the way it's supposed to when it's done, great. But I kind of, if I have to go bust on somebody really hard, it's usually somebody outside the company, because I don't want anybody out there taking unfair advantage of my people inside my organization.
Certainly. Yeah.
And I will go erase somebody if they're abusing.
I think you were a little more brusque even when I met you.
That's very
12, 13 years ago or something. But then I remember, I was just cracking up because I remembered one time we were having this conversation. I said to you, it's like, well, it was on this sort of topic. I said, well, you've always been really nice to me. And you said, yeah, well, I need things from you.
And I'm sure that I said that sarcastically.
Oh, totally.
But because there are people that I would not say that to, but that would be true of them. But I mean, we're all like that to a certain degree. When you know that you got to get a thing done, and you know that the person is generally trying to do their best.
Yeah.
You know, of course, when they fall on their ass, you do your best to try to help them and team up with them to get the thing over the line, as opposed to the person that's just giving you the blank, you know, the 20-yard stare in the 10-yard room, and they have no intention of stepping up. That just burns me up, because all the rest of the people in a company are stepping it up all the time. And they never complain. Usually when I find that somebody is kind of falling down on the job, I realize they're overcommitted.
Oh,
they're trying to do too many things in one day, because that's
kind of leadership, is you have to be able to notice that and go, all right,
and
you're going to drown trying to make this happen.
And it's, I'm not keeping the staffs at the size that it is to save money, because if it's not an efficient thing and there are mistakes being made and stuff isn't getting done right, that doesn't save money.
Right.
So having a short staff to save money is counterproductive. It actually costs you more.
Interesting.
So I am willing to bring in more people if we all as a group decide we need to take some of the weight off of these 2 people and transfer it to another person, and maybe they're more simple, specific kind of jobs that are maybe more repetitive or something like that, that somebody else could easily take that load off of this other person who's much better at something else, would bring them in. But like I said before, they're very protective about their space too, and they don't want the team doesn't want another team member in there that's not going to pull their weight. That's not me making that subjective decision about a potential new employee. That's the rest of the guys that have to share their territory
Right.
with a new
Or if you can't
person.
come in to do this, you're going to slow me down.
Yeah, and
I like coming into work because of the workflow. And if you come in and like I have to work around you or work behind you, like you're going to wreck my enjoyment.
yeah, and
Right.
the quality of the people in our team are such that they might get frustrated because somebody's not pulling their weight, and they won't tell me about it. They'll just kind of mope,
Oh,
and you can tell. Is there anything going on? Everything okay at home? Is there anything bugging you? Like, no, I'm okay. I'm okay. All right, what's up with it? Well, I really don't want to pick on anybody else, but the assemblies that I'm getting I'm having to do a lot of rework. And okay, let's get everybody together.
yeah.
It's like, okay, everything stops. We get the whole production team together and talk about what is happening and what is causing this rift.
I like that.
And it usually ends up being something that nobody's really dropping the ball.
Oh.
Maybe we got a batch of parts
Mm-hmm.
that has a higher defect rate. And instead of coming and saying, some people are just so golden hearted. They don't even necessarily want to come to me or the supervisor as something and then throw a vendor under the bus that's dropping the ball.
Wow.
They're going to try to figure out how to use as much of the stuff that we get from that vendor as possible and re-inspect it. And maybe if we have to do some touch up or a little tweak, repair ourselves to make, they're going to try to do that rather than go, we just got a whole box of shit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go, no. If we're getting a box of shit, it has to be reassigned back to the source of the shit.
Yeah, corrected by them, not us.
Right.
Yeah.
And so our team can't be getting, kneecapped by that.
Mm-hmm.
And then one person getting frustrated because he doesn't know how many steps back that crap part went through to get almost good enough for the final assembly guy to use it, but he's not happy about it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's interesting. So we're always trying to find the right scale of things. At the same time, the scale is escalating, not radically, but it is growing.
It's tepid water.
Yeah.
Temperature's rising.
And then you said something just a minute ago, which was on that subject about when we first met and you thought I was an edgier person. Well, okay, that was coming off of an economic disaster and a reorganization of the entire company and a reevaluation of our direction and the kind of new products that we were going to make and where is our box and all. There was all kinds of interesting things going on there. So
you know what though, when I've done NAMs with you, occasionally there'll be people who come up and they'll talk to me. I won't name names. We're like, oh man, I used to work with Stevie back in the day, and he was a wild man.
Yeah.
So you have a reputation.
I think I'm still a wild man. I just save it for the more appropriate time to be the wild man.
All right.
Because I never feel like I don't have the capacity to be a wild man. I never feel that way.
Yeah. We're going to take some questions in a second, guys.
But I mean,
I know there are some here.
But I mean, I know you go through the same thing.
Uh-oh. What do I go through?
Well, I mean, I know that you are spending more time focusing on what you do best and what you want to do with your life, and you've gone through a big transition.
Oh, lots.
Yeah. But you're still ready to go Taiwan on if you've got if the opportunity presents itself, right?
Remember?
Yeah. And the opportunities present themselves all the time. You just have to, you're just
Not going to take that one.
you're just
Not
gonna
going to take that
you're
one.
just gonna like not take the bait every single time because
Right.
there's just too many other things going on.
And we need to get up tomorrow and make the donuts again.
Yeah, I mean,
There's always work to be done.
I spent all day today, up until an hour before we started the show, reviewing intellectual property documents and working on the GPDI manual, which is going to be up online.
Oh, that's funny. We're just getting a question about that now.
Later tonight or tomorrow. It will be up.
There you go, Jeff.
And yeah, I know there's a couple of people going, can't believe you put a product out there without a manual. And well, that's true. I did get I have two people that help me write the manuals, and one of them doesn't do as much of the whole job, and the other one does the whole job and just comes to me and shows me stuff and asks me for feedback and edits or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The person that does the bare bones layout, and I do most of the writing and most of the editing and the proofing.
Yeah.
Much faster. The person that does all the heavy lifting and just brings me little bits and pieces to approve, 4-6 weeks.
Interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
So we went through supplier issues and logistics issues and blah 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 with the GPDI, and then when we finally got to this point where we went from, I think we're a couple of weeks away from starting to ship, that turned into a couple of days.
Mm.
And the same thing happened with the ZMAX manual.
Uh-huh.
I wrote that ZMAX manual from top to bottom in 8 hours. 8 hours. And that's usually a 4 to 6 week job.
Mm.
But if I get pushed hard enough up against the wall, and I've done this before.
What was the product that you wrote the manual for overnight? You tell me you sat on the couch. You just went, all right,
that
get
was
done.
That was the GP3 manual.
Oh.
I put on my pajamas and a robe and peppered my couch with pillows, and I had one pillow on my lap that I had my laptop sitting on that, and I think I had a bottle of wine, and I had some chips and guacamole, and I had the TV on in the living room. I was in total couch potato mode, and I just hammered that. I stayed up all night. I pulled an all-nighter, just sat in that couch. The only time I got up was to go to the restroom and come back, and I worked on that all night long. And in the morning, I had it all done, and then I sent it off to the guy to put the illustrations in. So I didn't have to do that with the ZMAX manual. I did it during daylight hours, but I did bang that out. I stopped everything that I was doing and just did that. And I got that done in 8 hours. I got the GPDI, 90% of the GPDI manual I did in 3 days.
Oh, okay.
2 to 3 days.
All right.
And the only thing that's left right now is some detailed illustrations, but all the basic stuff is in there. So I've proofread that, and all the basic information about what all the knobs and jacks do and switches are there. So that's going to go live either tonight or tomorrow morning, and that'll be there. And then over the course of the next week, the application examples and illustrations.
Oh, so you're kind of putting up a manual 1.0, and then you're going to flesh it out?
But we used to do that, and we would call it the preliminary manual. We're not doing that this time. We're just putting it up. Here's the manual, and then in a week, when you go online and pull the manual down again, you're going to see it's got another couple of pages added onto it. Because what's going to happen with that product, what happened with the ZMAX, is we put out the basic piece of information, and then we start getting feedback about what people really want to know. How can I hook two together? How can I hook the power station and the Cyclops together with? How can I hook preamps and heads and power amps and the PLI and blah, blah, blah together with this and make them all work? And a lot of people need to be told how to do that, even though I think it's sort of self-explanatory. And you know what? It turns out to be kind of self-explanatory, because when I finally do get time and can focus enough to answer that question, they go, yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I'm doing. But I just wanted to check with you.
All right.
And that goes back to the rules of engagement,
All right.
which is the number of people that want, the percentage of people that actually need information, they don't understand how something works, and the percentage of people that got everything about how it works, but they just want to have a conversation with us about it.
Oh, this is the perfect jumping off point. Would you like to engage with some questions now? Because people just want to have the conversation, Steve.
I get that. We get that. I've got 2 people now helping to manage customer service questions and support and stuff like that. There's just more product out there now than there used to be, so it requires more people. But at the end of the day, there are things that just I know intrinsically about all the weird things that you can make this, that you could twist this into a fun, interesting pretzel that only I would know how to address that or do that. Like coming up with the self-attenuation thing for
the power station.
That was hilarious. I had such fun doing that. It was like, some guy goes, you know, it'd be really cool if you could make the power station like saturate its own power, blah, 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 blah. Went, yeah, you can do that. Huh? You know, I got off on that. We're getting more of that. And so, yeah, I mean, we're gonna answer questions and we're gonna talk about some of this stuff, but we're also really talking about what we're capable of doing, what we want to put out there, what we want, the experience that we want our customers to have, and how to make people understand that having everything that they ever wished for in one box is not a good idea.
Oh, yeah.
And it's almost never a good idea. The GPDI is packed with stuff, but if you think about it and look at it, everything that's packed into that box is directly related to every other thing that's packed into that box. It's not a box that's got this kind of stuff in it and then an entirely different product class of stuff blended in with it. And the reason that's important to make a comment about that is that when who was it? 2 Notes just came out with the
Reload 2.
The Reload 2. And it looks pretty cool. Looks like they put some real thought into it. And there's just a ton of pushback from users that, why didn't you put the IRs in it? And that's like really a solid question, because they excel at their IRs. So why wouldn't they put it in there?
Yeah.
And but that's for them to answer. But what I know about overloading a product with too many different kinds of features, you know, there's the Swiss Army knife analogy is great, but you can overdo it. And there are, I might add, a number of different Swiss Army knives. They're not all the same. There's bigger ones, there's smaller ones. Some have the scissors, some have the toothpick, some have the, the fish hook remover. They don't all have everything in it, because if you overdo that concept, what you end up with is a product that becomes obsolete before its time, because the one aspect of that product that is most likely to become obsolete is going to make all the stuff prematurely obsolete. So you might have 90% of the product that is good for a 25-year span of useful life, but it's only going to be a 5-year product because one piece of it is only good for 5 years. and that's only 10% of the product, and the other 90% is useless after that because you're stuck with. We always use the analogy of the little portable TV with the videotape player in it.
Yeah.
It's the tape player that always breaks. The TV will play for another 20, 30 years, but the tape player thing only lasted, the videotape player part of it only lasted 2 years.
Is it the bell or the whistle?
Yeah.
So,
well, we kind of blazed through that in a pretty short amount of time. So now with that overall view of what our approach is on things, what do you got? Oh, he's all set.
You see that?
Yeah. This question gets asked a lot, and it gets answered a lot too, which is it's in process and it is coming out. I don't really have any new thoughts about it. What we've said that we were going to generally do about it has been said, and it's a work in progress. It's gradually making its way to the finish line. I'm excited about it. It's going to be fun. It's going to kick ass. It's really
going to kick ass.
It's going to kick ass, and it's going to surprise you. It's going to make your jaw hang down, and it's going to make some people mad. And it's going to be all of those things. Those are my thoughts on it. And I assume, but when you say MK2, you're talking about the new Ultra Lead. And if I'm right about that, which I think I am, that's pretty much what I can tell you at the moment. When I'm ready to start waving the flag about about what's coming down the pike, and you're going to start seeing.
If that's not what they were talking about, there's another one for you. It's the same sentiment. Give us some news on the new pit bull.
Okay, that's talking about the Ultra Lead.
Yeah.
But you said the previous one wasn't about that?
No, if it wasn't.
Oh, if it wasn't.
I think it is. That would make sense.
Yeah. So looks like my account says the same thing.
You think an AC30 would sound good through some Fane crescendo speakers? I don't know those.
No, I don't. I don't really care for the Fane crescendo speakers. I never did.
What's the deal on those?
Well, they were they were a late 70s, early era Fane speaker that was not clean and powerful in the way that an EV12L, EVM12L was, but it's kind of understood to be a similar kind of speaker like that. High powered, clean.
Oh, that's kind of what it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't measuring up.
Well, it would measure up okay in a 412 cabinet, but it got an unfairly higher reputation than it deserved because Gilmore used them. But there are so many. How it goes. There are so many caveats to that. Gilmore used it. Gilmore used crescendo speakers in the WEM cabs as a speaker, kind of like a monitor for the cleanest stuff that he was doing, and it wasn't his main speaker. A WEM cabinet. Have any of you ever played through a crate 412?
A crate 412?
Yeah.
What era?
80s, 90s. They're made of MDF. They're all made of MDF. They weigh.
I had one.
They weigh 1 million pounds. They had no personality whatsoever.
No.
That's what the WEM cab is. It's a complete MDF cab. It's dead, and it had these big clean speakers in it, 4 of them. So it was dead and heavy. It's not anything that you would go,
Ugh.
that's like grail tone kind of a cab. That is a,
I think I'm done now.
yeah, that is a,
I have the guitar back.
that is a, it's not a cab that you associate with blistering tone. It's a cab that you associate with doing a grunt task.
Yeah.
You know, it's very specific in what it excels at, and it excels at not breaking up, not introducing any personality into the sound. It's just like, it's almost like an early shot at FRFR.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would absolutely not put a speaker like that in an amp that is just like the epitome of a high personality, definable amplifier that has a specific characteristic that everybody knows what it is. No way. That would just make it sound awful.
Yeah. Okay.
And
Very
unnecessarily heavy. It's already heavy enough.
All right. Very good. Next question. Kevin Leary asks, there's an issue with this early 2015 power station. The R503 resistor on the inductor board blew. I can't tell the value of the resistor to replace it. Can you tell me the value?
I have to go look it up. As much as I'd like to brag and say I have every schematic for every product that we ever made in my head, I'm sadly deficient in that department. But I know what you're talking about. That is a component that probably got overloaded at some point in its lifetime, and there will be an update. So what you need to do is just go to our support forum and post that question, and if you haven't already done it and haven't got an answer to it yet, you will. It only takes a couple of days. There's a bunch of stuff on there that of course we have to research and get the details of, so that we're giving you good information. But that's not a difficult thing to do. But that one goes to the support forum, and you'll get a response to that early in the week. We can get you the value, or we can just send you the part. I mean, we have a really good policy for parts replacements. The specialized stuff that we use that you can't get off the shelf, if it's under $10, we send it to the customers for free.
Oh, that's awesome.
No matter how old it is. But if it's something that's off the shelf, we'll give you a link to like an electronic parts supplier or something like that will have that specific part in stock that you can get for next to nothing, and usually a couple of bucks in shipping.
Kevin's chiming in. He says, I've posted to the support forum and was told to just send it in.
I don't think that you would just send it in.
It's a 5-watt ceramic resistor.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Here's the thing. We're slamming busy. We're not going to just tell you to send something in to us to get a repair done if it's a part that can be done in the field. So I know that the guys, there's Gil and Daniel are doing their best to answer as many questions as possible and get as many follow-ups, and then and filter out the stuff that really needs to be handled by the factory to the factory. And they're working on that. But and the forum is getting more refined as we go along too. It's fairly new. It's only about 3 months old. So give us a chance. But the part that you need is probably also, if you have a local repair shop that you normally deal with, we'll work with them too. So that's something that you could, if you want to do it yourself, and it's just that resistor, then we'll get you the information for the part. If you want to send it in and get it completely gone over from top to bottom, sure, we can do that too. But if it's just little maintenance issues, maintenance items like that, it's just much easier to not send it in, not spend the money and time waiting for it to travel from wherever you are to where we are and back. So And the other thing that would really help on the forum is when you post a picture of the part that you need replaced, if you can see it. And if you can't see it, that's okay too. We'll get that worked out. Just give us a day or
Cool.
two.
Cool. Okay, so DS is asking about this 2U backspace preamp. It was a Pitbull preamp. It was in an early 90s guitar magazine. See, maybe he was talking about it earlier. You know what he might be alluding to?
No. Could you reread it? Because I can't see the whole sentence.
It's talking about a previous comment. I don't see where it's at in here, but I'm looking for it. Okay, here we go. I think this is this had to be the original one. What became of the 2U rack space Pitbull preamp that was reviewed in one of the guitar magazines in the early 90s? I saw a picture of it.
Was it reviewed or was it just previewed like it's coming soon? Was it a preview thing of something that was going to come out? Because there was never a Pitbull preamp that got released and reviewed by any magazine. There was a proposed Pitbull preamp that eventually became the Valvulator GP3 preamp that did make it to production, and that did get reviewed in magazines in the late 90s, like 90. It came out in 98 or 9, and we produced those for about, 5 years. But we did do an advanced preview of a preamp that was going to be a 2-space Pitbull preamp.
Oh, okay. That had to be it.
I have that someplace.
Yeah.
And you'll be thrilled to know that it's only a front panel with knobs attached to it. That morphed, and it morphed into the GP3.
Got it. Yeah.
And the reason it morphed into the GP3 is because as much as people want, I want, that Pitbull amp is great. I would like a preamp of that. But there are just so many things that we could accomplish with the preamp that we decided that we didn't want to limit its apparent scope, the way people think of it, what it could possibly be and do.
Mm-hmm.
We had come out with the Valvulator 1 a couple of years before that.
Yeah.
And it was doing really well. And we saw that as like, this could be a whole series of products that we could make, which we ended up doing, that would fall outside of the scope of Heads and Cabs vibe.
Yeah, right.
And so we
maybe
came
the
up with
first venture into that.
Yeah,
almost.
That was the beginning
Heads,
of
Cabs, and Power Amps. Of course.
that was the beginning of the stage and studio stuff that we have now on our website. And the very first thing that we did was the Valvulator 1, and that was hugely successful. And we made those for a real long time, and we only stopped making them temporarily. And then, since we already had the Valvulator name, and when we were getting ready to finally actually release a preamp, we just started thinking cosmetically and the things that it does, the things that it's capable of, and the way it should look. It shouldn't really be a Pitbull thing. We just and then I think somebody just said, well, why don't we make it part of we've got the Valvulator, why don't we just branch out and make a number of things under the Valvulator mentality. And we all just went, no brainer. Yeah, great. So that's what we did.
Well, you know what?
And then from the GP3 begat the GPDI.
Yeah. It would be great if at some point you could pull it out and we could bring it on the show DS. Here it is. And then flip it around.
Yeah.
Here's what it was.
Yeah,
and here's what it is.
yeah. I think
That would be so fun.
I have an idea. I know where it is.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. Now that we don't have a separate storage warehouse
Yeah.
that has a lot of hidden gems in it, it's easy to go to the.
You know what? I'm actually going to make a note to remind you about that, or I'll forget about it because I would like to see it too. What was it called? The 2U?
No, it was just the Pitbull preamp.
Yeah, what was it
No,
called?
it was just called
the VHT preamp.
Pitbull.
The Pitbull. Oh, okay.
Pitbull preamp.
All right.
Yeah, black with a black panel with some pots and switches glued onto it.
All right. Ready for another one?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
This is funny because what we were talking about earlier, graphite and cigars.
By the way, can I say something about the graphic for the show? The David and Goliath graphic with Ilroy.
It's your world, man.
I mean, I just want to give a shout out to our graphic artist chick that came up with that. I love using that character Ilroy, who is basically my alter ego and we've used him a few times for placeholders for the show. And when we were talking about the concept for the show, and I came up with the David and Goliath image, and I just sent it to Chick yesterday, and by the end of the day, he had that graphic.
He's
made.
the fastest guy in the world.
And he said, "This is a preliminary," and we went, "No, it's done as far as we're concerned."
Yeah.
He had all designs about maybe fleshing, and I may ask him to flesh it out. We'll see. But anyway, I hope you guys got off on that because I sure did. I know you really liked it.
Like you were saying, it has Holy Grail vibes.
Yeah, totally had the Holy Grail vibes.
Yeah. Or at least Life of Brian.
Yeah.
Stoning. Are you from No City? All right, here we go. Who?
No, okay. Do the same thing with him as the Pitbull preamp. I seriously doubt that we have an extra one laying around. But
that was just a tease.
I could go. I don't know. I don't even know where I would look. So, but you make a note of it and.
I'll do that. I'll ask. I'll bug Steve about it this week. If there is one, we'll see if we can get him to find it.
I honestly don't even know where to look. Sorry, I shouldn't have shot my mouth off, but that's what I do. I shoot my mouth off.
You know what?
Ilroy is actually on the
new edition that can come out at some point.
We don't usually put Ilroy in the manual, but we do put him on the circuit boards inside the amps.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go. Steve, would you like to regale us all with the story of the K?
Oh, we've done that story.
I don't remember
a
it.
Bunch of times.
And Scott wants to hear it, so.
Well, wasn't that 2 shows ago?
I don't remember.
Yeah, it was 2 shows ago. We started the show with me playing it. And,
but did you have to have the neck reset or something?
Yeah, we talked about it.
We'll talk about it again.
Let's move on. It's an old K that I bought from a dealer in Seattle. The neck had been broken off and reset poorly, and somebody stuck a pickup on it, and it's the kind of guitar that when you pick it up to play it, you have to tune it. Every time you play a chord, you have to tune it twice so that you can play the second chord. And it's almost better as a prop or something that you would use to defend yourself against a home invasion intruder with than play as an instrument. But I love it. It's got a great vibe, and it's just a clunky, funky, beater guitar.
And that's all you're going to say about it?
That's pretty much it. It's its own thing.
And how many hit songs have you written on it?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, all right. Ted asks, talking about the PS100, are there any common problems or potential equipment failure that I may encounter over time? Only use my PS100 for 3 months. Well, that's kind of speculative.
Yeah, the only it's pretty bulletproof. We've been making
Don't drop it off a tall building.
we've been making the power stations now since 2014. And 90%, just like any tube amplifier, 90% of the maintenance involves replacing the tubes once in a while. They're pretty hard to break. People break them, but
Have you seen any horror stories? Like I drove my car over or anything like that?
Okay, yes. We got one. We got one a week ago that was shipped in a box with no packing material in it, and it wasn't the original box. UPS requires that you have 2 inches of space on each side of the product in a box and sufficiently dense inner packing material to support the weight of the product.
Yeah.
If you don't pack it that way and it gets damaged in shipment, they'll tell you to take a hike. They're not gonna honor a damage claim if you didn't pack it properly. A guy just sent us one in a box that was just about almost the right size box for the power station without any packing material in it. But it did have some packing material in it. It had 2 depends for packing material. I'm not exaggerating. At first we thought that they were baby diapers, and Masa, who recently had a baby, looked at me and goes, "No, those are too big to be baby diapers. Those are not Huggies. Those are Depends, dude."
Oh man!
Let me tell you how grossed out everybody was. I mean, we've had people wrap up stuff in sheets that you can tell they just screamed, "I could throw these in the washer, or I could use them for packing material." And then when my wife says, "Where's the sheets?" I just say, "I don't know. Maybe I accidentally use it for packing material to send my aunt back to the factory," as opposed to saying, "I'm sorry, dear. I know I was supposed to do the laundry, but I didn't." We've seen some pretty frightening shit. But
remember when we had Torn on the show, and he was talking about getting his first deliverance?
Yeah, it had
like bird nest,
bird's nest, and spider webs. And, oh my God.
He bought it used.
Yeah, and yeah,
it didn't come from the factory that way.
But we had a power station that looked like somebody sent us one that was packed so poorly it looked literally like they did an episode of Bowling for Power Stations with it. The entire outside cover, the top, the bottom, the sides, they were all completely thrashed. The insides were great. Yeah, everything inside. The tubes weren't even broken.
Whoa!
But the outside was so banged up. The front panel, the top cover, and the chassis were all so banged up that they needed to be replaced. But all the guts were good. So we took all the guts out and put it in a new chassis for the guy. And he apologized for doing such a lousy shipping job. But yeah, that happens. Yeah, but the Depends was the topper.
All right. Next question. Kevin asks, says he has a Pitbull 100 CL. Very cool amp. It has stopped working properly. My local tech has informed me that he needs to rebuild some leads from one of the circuit boards. Are these boards still available?
Send that to support with the serial number. support@fryette.com with the serial number, your address, phone number, serial number of the unit, name, email address, and picture of the affected area. There are some, depends on when it was made, whether or not we have a replacement board. But generally, repairing traces on a 50 CL board, depending on what it is and how extensive it is, it's usually not that big of a deal, and I would recommend doing that rather than replacing the entire board.
100 CL any different? I think that's
Same
what he
thing,
asked.
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Same basic thing.
All right,
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
All right, Groovy?
Yeah, so take it out of the chassis and take pictures inside the chassis. Usually when I say take pictures of the guts so we can see what the board looks like, and then we'll get a picture of the back of the amp, and we can't see inside. It's
Yeah.
just like, well, here's a picture of the back. You can see the tubes. Yeah, but we need to see the circuit boards. That's inside. That means you take the chassis out, and then it's like, how do I get it out? Okay, there's 4 screws on the bottom. You know, it's pretty straight ahead. And I don't need 15 pictures. Just take it out of the chassis, get good light inside it, upside down, so you can see the boards, and hold the camera far enough up that you can see basically the whole thing in one shot, but use a high resolution setting. And send it to us as a high resolution setting. Don't squish it down, because we're going to zoom in and try to look around. And if it doesn't have high enough resolution to zoom in, it's not going to help us. So do that, and you'll get a real informed answer as to how to proceed on that.
He says the serial starts with 98. So
Oh, that's a good sign. That's a good sign.
Okay, cool. I really enjoyed making the video comparison of the Deliverance module with the SYN 20 IR alongside my Deliverance 120 Series 2 Plus.
Oh yeah, I saw that. I saw that. Good work.
I ordered the new GPDI IR. Does it have the same preamp as the SYN module for the Series 2 Plus? So is the GPDI IR's preamp the same or similar to the SYN Deliverance preamp or the actual amp?
It's kind of an amalgam of the Pitbull and the Deliverance. It's kind of the key sonic characteristics of those two models, but not all of the preamp variations that the modules are capable of. That said, it is bigger sounding than the module, and it will do a more authentic Deliverance than it just depends on the power amp you're using and all of that.
They all sound pretty damn good though.
Yeah, okay, so when we're at the factory and we took the Deliverance module in a SYN 2 and set it up with the PS100 and the Cyclops and a D120 Series 2 Plus, we weren't trying to compare all the features, you know.
The
low gain mode, the blah, blah, blah. We set it up for the two basic settings. How close can the module and the GPDI compare? How close can we get those to sound to the D120 head in the cleanest modes and in the most overdriven modes, and somewhere kind of in between? And it was pretty remarkable. I think the GPDI does a better job, mainly because it's just got more plate voltage than the modules can get in the SYN 2. And I don't know what the plate voltage is in the SYN 20, but I'm going to guess that it's probably in the same ballpark as what the SYN 2 is doing. And the GPDI has a little higher plate voltage and a better sag circuit, the dynamics circuit in it, than the Synergy sag circuit, it's a similar one, but it's more evolved now. And that's what's going on in the GPDI. So it's just you're using it. You've been using the GPDI for a long time, and now you've got the new one and you're working with it. So you have a better idea. And you spent more time probably really sussing out the Deliverance 2 Plus than I did even. Or I just think you have a good take on it.
Well, I wasn't playing the day that we were airing them at the shop, but I was listening. And it was down to, and this is between the module in the head.
Right.
And it was down to like, look, man, honestly, if I'm not looking at you switching, I'll get lost and I won't know which one is which. It really blew me away. So it's weird to say this. I think the difference is negligible, and I'm pretty sure the GPDI, if I did them all and played them all, it would be, you're certainly not going to identify the differences on it in a track, you know.
You're going to say one of them is more towards Canadian molasses, and the other one is more towards Alaskan molasses, and you know, I mean,
and I'll be full of shit on both points.
Yeah, no, I just think that they have the essential characteristic is in there on all three of them.
100%.
And
you're not going to find any of them lacking.
You're just going to find one that I like this one for this particular setting, and this one, I don't know. I mean, I got a little nervous when I was A-Bing the GPDI and the Deliverance 2 Plus, because I thought, man, people are going to like this so much with the PS100 that they're not going to need a D120. But
I need a D120.
The D120, you know, because the preamp and the power amp share the power supply on the same chassis, that gives it a different characteristic than the GPDI with the PS100, which are separate components, and you have to get them to trick them into behaving like they're a self-contained amplifier by using the depth control, which means you have to use it really, you have to use the dynamics control very sparingly.
Yeah.
Or else it's really easy to overdo it. And hey, Leon, did you get my email, by the way, Leon? I sent you an email several weeks ago saying, hey, and thanking you for coming and visiting us. And I had a question for you about if I could send you some stuff to play with. And I didn't hear back. So I don't know if my email went to your junk box or you just been busy. So I would like to know that. And then we'll answer your question, whatever it is.
Okay, cool. Oh, this is funny. Oh, this is a weird thing because I was just thinking about Kyle a couple minutes ago when we were talking about seeing gear completely womped. You'll know what I'm talking about when I pull this up.
Okay.
Does Steve remember a band called Bang
yeah.
Tango?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we both do. And Kyle sent you that.
Kyle Stevens we've been buddies for a real long time. Did you happen to see our Instagram post that had a completely charred Valvulator 1 chassis sitting on a cinder block with the ocean view behind it? Because you can go to our Instagram account and sift through that, and you'll see that. That is Kyle Stevens's Valvulator 1 that was in his house that he lived in Malibu that burned to the ground, and that was all that was left of the Valvulator 1. And it's the bricks that it's sitting on is the foundation bricks of his house. So that's what a heartbreaking photograph that is. But Kyle is a survivor. He's doing very well. He's making custom cabinets for high-end homes in the in the Malibu Hills and Santa Monica Hills and stuff like that. He's a kick-ass wood builder guy. He's got a very happening business, and he's just a sweetheart of a guy. He's just the best.
That band, I was into that second record, Dancing After Midnight or something. I forget. They were a really interesting band at that time period, and just didn't pop the way they could have.
Yeah, and you know what's really funny about that is they did a reunion at the Whiskey.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And they didn't know how it was going to go, but I think it sold out 2 nights.
Oh, cool.
It totally sold out, and label people and promotion people came to them and went, okay, we got to do a tour around you guys. And they were like, oh shit, we like accidentally set something on fire again.
Yeah.
And everybody was getting all excited about it, and then COVID shut down.
Oh no. Oh man.
So
yeah, they
that-
were really cool.
Yeah,
They were
so
really cool.
that got
like it was that time period where everything was like super strats, and I remember that record came out. I was like, oh, like real cool strat tones.
and
Like
Kyle is the guy that knows how to play a super strat, man. He gets the killer tones.
Maybe they had strats with Floyd's or something, but it sounded like single coil stuff. Like, oh, nice.
He was definitely into the. He just one of the few people that can play a strat through a cocked wah-wah with the gain cranked on the amp and have it sound phenomenal.
Yeah.
Most people, it just sounds like,
run away,
having broken windshield glass firing at you at 100 miles an hour into your face.
Brendan says Ilroy is Steve without his psych meds.
There's some truth in that.
Steve, would we be able to get a foam gasket for our front mounted 412 fat bottom cab?
Yeah, just go to the forum, go sign up on the Friday support forum and just post that, and Gil will make it happen. Address, go to the forum and look. There's in the frequently asked questions section, there is a post that explains how to order parts and how to get repairs done at the factory, and just follow that. Go there and follow that instruction, and it'll get taken care of. Next, what do you got?
After you were talking about the depends packing job, the very next question, you said something about it depends when the 100 CL was made. And I heard it, and I was gonna Beavis and Butthead you on it, but I passed.
Somebody did it.
Yeah, Bradley. Shout out to Bradley Wood.
All right.
Yeah, caught it. Let's see. Buddy Brendan asks, was there ever a time in the company's life where things were looking dicey and you considered hanging it up? Yesterday. No,
yeah,
I'm kidding.
Really. No, I never considered hanging it up. When the economy tanked, it was dicey. But I'd never considered hanging it up. I had to consider the question, and we did. We discussed it every which way it could be discussed, because we didn't know what was going to happen after that, if there was going to, what we just didn't know. And so we just had to do these thought experiments. What if things don't work out? What if things don't change fast enough? What if when the economy comes back, it's a totally different world, and we're irrelevant and obsolete? What? And what we arrived at was, we do what we do and we love what we do. And if there's a way that we continue to do it, then we will continue to do it, because any of the alternatives would be less desirable or distasteful to consider. So there was a certain amount of fear. A lot of companies were going through this, and companies did disappear, and we very well could have been one of those. But we decided, no, there's something out there for us, and all we have to do is figure out how to keep our heads down and get through it, and that's what we did.
Nice. And we're really freaking glad you did.
Thank you.
All right, man. That was it. Let's land the plane. We're right at 2 hours. Coming in right on schedule.
Oh, I want to see. I want to see Leon's question.
He didn't have a question.
Yeah, he did.
Mm,
What's that one there? What's that one?
he's just making comments.
What's it say?
GPDIRR against the Deliverance sounded very close when Steve was blasting his hammer through it.
Oh, that's right. You were there. Oh, you know what?
He sent you an email. He said he sent you an
Okay,
email.
great. Actually, I'm glad that I saw part of that and I wanted to respond to it. I know it's not a question, but I just wanted to tell you, Leon, that it wasn't finished when you were there. So it's evolved quite a bit since you heard it. And you heard it sound pretty close to the Deliverance at that time. And it's undergone. That was the very first operational batch.
Is that before you changed the game?
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, Leon, you got to play it now, dude.
Yeah, it's
Seriously.
undergone a couple of there was a bug that we found in there. There was a couple of bugs that we found in there that had to be addressed that nobody would probably find it, but we knew it was there.
Yeah.
And we hacked away at it until we got that resolved, and then we started shipping them. So you will be surprised when you get here.
You will. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, now it's even more good. Yeah.
Actually, oh, here we go. A couple other questions.
Early October. Yeah, that was when we were just getting to the point where, all right, these things are going to start leaving here.
Bonzology 3. Is that Bonzo? Happy to say I just ordered both the PS100 and ZMAX. That rules. Wow, that's a rig, man. So just to be clear, with the switches in flat mode on the PS100, it's only a resistive attenuator, correct?
That's partly correct. Because it's a resistive load, then, not necessarily a reactive load. When you set the switches to flat, it's a resistive load. So that part of it is resistive. The output stage, the power amp that drives your speaker cabinet, is a tube power amp that interacts with your speaker cabinet. When you turn the presence and depth controls all the way down, it's a little flatter. It's not totally flat. It's a little more neutral than if you turn the presence depth controls up, but it's still going to have a little bit of reactive behavior between the power amp output and the speaker cabinet that's connected to it.
Cool. Boomer asks, how badly are the tariffs on metals and materials?
We're about to find out, and I don't even want to know.
Yeah.
Because we use a lot of aluminum and we use a lot of steel. So we don't know. We don't know if that's actually going to stick or if it's going to get undone or if it's going to change. And oh my God, what a mess. What an absolute mess. That's just somebody going and sticking a stick into a hornet's nest just to get people to scream and run around with their heads are chopped off. There's not a single bit of anything productive or useful about what's going on with that. It's just madness, and it's going to hurt the people that were supposed to be the people that were going to get helped. It's going to have the absolute opposite of what people thought that they were going to get out of that, and not in a good way. So I imagine that we're going to get hit, but we aren't just a bunch of robots. There are ways of working around complex situations like that.
Usually is.
And you know, we're always trying to find a way around a problem or a way through a problem, or to you know, to beat a challenge. That's just probably our topmost thing that I think we excel at, is we're not afraid of a challenge. We're not afraid of staring a problem in the face until we prevail over it. So we'll figure it out. We always do.
Wait, where'd it go? Leon did have a question. He came up with a question.
All right.
What fanes are in the cabs you have at the factory?
Those are those were the F70Gs.
Hell of a speaker.
Yeah, that's a great speaker.
Oh yeah. Kevin asks, would the Sound City 50 be a good platform for a Gilmore style rig?
Yeah.
Is it really close to a high watt?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does its own thing, but you can dial it in to where, if you have your back to it, you can't tell which one's the high watt and which one's the Sound City. And we've got an example of one of the best sounding DR103s and DR504s of all the ones that I've ever heard. We've got a stellar example of each of them. And we've got the ZMAX, so we can put them side by side and A/B them. And if you have your back to it, you can't tell.
Agreed.
You can't. You got great ears. Erico can't.
Oh, she's got better ears than I
She's
do.
got better ears than everybody. And she came into the demo room, and I played the two for her, and she was mad. She was like, I was sure that I was going to say I can hear the difference, but the difference is actually insignificant, and both of them sound good, and they're going to be a slightly different flavor. That would be her normal answer when she hears a subtle difference. If it's not bad,
Yes,
it would be like, they're both great flavors.
Yeah.
They're just slightly different flavors. She got mad when she heard me set up those two so that she couldn't tell the difference, because she revels in her ability to hear past my little machinations.
Yeah.
So I beat her on that one. It pissed her off. It was great.
Oh, that's funny. Oh, okay. Ready for your elevator pitch?
Yeah.
Bates asks, please explain what the GPDI IR is.
We don't have another hour. But we've got, you know, I mean, that's why we're doing the vids. I think probably the Nielsen video is good, and you've done a couple, right? Have you done yours yet?
I don't remember what I've done.
We don't even know.
GPDI is a 1 watt desktop recording amp. I think I said that in a video once upon a time.
It's an amplifier.
Yeah.
It's a guitar amp that's little.
Yeah. It sits on your desk. It's got IRs in it. You can play it through a cab, and it works as a 1 watt amplifier. I practice that way every day. And it has IRs in it. You can run that straight into your DAW, or you can bypass the IRs, run it straight into your DAW, use IRs in your DAW. But it's at its core. Oh, and it also has an analog cab simulation system on board.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really just a 1 watt amplifier that's very much like the Deliverance, in that there are different modes, but it's not like you're not switching through completely different topology, different channels, right? So to me, you know, it's got one treble, middle, bass EQ section, and you have 2 gain controls, and then the modes for what do we consider those? Just
the clean, the Deliverance, and the Pitbull voicings.
Yeah.
And then the dynamics control, so that you can make it feel like a big cranked amp.
Yeah.
And it's all there in a little box in front of you, and it does the reamping. And so it basically has all the ins and outs that you need to just plug your guitar in, plug it into your digital workstation, and do all the stuff that you would do with probably 5 different amplifiers. And you're the one that told me that you were really happy with the IR loader in it, and it's working just as well as it did when you were using your plugins.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're on board.
Yeah.
Previous to that, I was using the original GPDI, and I would just run that directly into my interface, and then I would load up IRs within my Reverb plugin.
Let me just say this. It's not a there's, except for the IRs and the analog cab sim part, it is a absolute guitar amplifier from beginning to end. It's not an emulation of a guitar amplifier. It's a guitar amplifier. It's got preamps. It's got a phase inverter stage. It's got an output transformer. It's got a reactive load that it drives when you don't have the speaker plugged in, and it has a speaker output. So when you do have a speaker plugged in every way, it behaves like a real guitar amplifier, and it doesn't sound like a scaled down little amplifier, because it was all designed to scale sonically so that it would sound like a big amplifier. So in other words, if you take a deliverance and plug that in to a reactive load, and then plug that into your DAW and play a track with it, and then plug the GPDI in, just the direct out, because you don't need a reactive load, it's got its own, and plug that into your interface, you will be hard pressed to tell the difference. You just got a little box on your desk instead of a big box on top of the cabinet that you're just using to sit the amp on and running that into a load. That's really what it is. It's a scaled down, a physically scaled down, but not sonically scaled down version of a raging tube guitar amplifier that's got great clean headroom as well.
Yeah, and Bates is also asking to explain it in a remote collaboration scenario.
What does that mean?
I'm not quite sure. But it would, however, you would use, a modeler into your DAW, or, amp head into an attenuator.
You mean like jamming with people online?
I don't know.
Or somebody sends you
it's an amplifier.
It's an amplifier.
Yeah.
So if you're remote, what kind of remote collaboration? Are you somebody sending you some stems that you need to add a track to? Yeah, it does all that.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Talking about the GPDI, mine was the first run off the Kickstarter. Yes, my old one was too. Will we be able to send it down for an update?
No, sorry. It's a completely revamped, reworked, updated, and refined model. There's way too many things going on there that would survive an update.
Clean sheet of paper?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty much. I mean, it's the same basic platform, but it's a whole new animal.
Yeah. All right, man. I think we're at that time.
Yeah. Yes, you can plug it into any impedance. 2, 4, 8, 16, doesn't matter. And the reason it doesn't matter is because the output transformer is very small. It doesn't develop enough high voltage flyback to damage the output transformer if you run it at the wrong impedance. That's what damages an output transformer. If you crank it and you don't have it at the right impedance and something happens, like a tube shorts or a speaker blows or something like that, those are the things that damage an output transformer if you overdo them. You can't do that with the GPDI, so you can't really run it at a wrong impedance. You can run it at 4, 8, or 16 ohms easily. It'll just change the volume level, but you're not using the GPDI new cab for volume level. You're using it to just record, to mic the speaker at a very low volume. So It's not going to make hardly any difference.
You want to hit me again before we leave?
Turn this thing off so we can go to Robin Hood and get some fish and chips.
All right, you guys, we love you. We'll see you again in 2.
Thank you for hanging out.
We coming back in 2?
Are we coming back in 2?
Let's come back in 2.
Let's come back in 2.
All right,
come back and see us.
Yeah,
Take
thank
care.
you. Good night, guys.